Good morning to everybody. Yom Haatzmaut Sameach. Shiur Nishmat HaKadoshim VaTorim. We are today standing in a very special day and also a very special parsha. The parsha talks about Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem. And what is Chilul Hashem? What is Kiddush Hashem? It depends. It depends who you are and where you are, in what situation you are standing. And we have to understand and realize that sometimes, the Khatam Sofer says, if you sit and do nothing, in other words, you don't do Chilul Hashem, it's already Kiddush Hashem, because it's connected together. V'lo techalelu et Shem Kodshi v'nikdashti. If you don't do Chilul Hashem, on this same situation, you are doing Kiddush Hashem. But it's also not so simple not to do Chilul Hashem when we see all the influence of what's happening around us, and how should we behave, and what is Kiddush Hashem? For example, to explain it, there are levels, a lot of levels. Let's take a falafel shop. You see this young guy comes to a falafel shop, he goes, buys a falafel, washes his hands, makes nitilat yadayim, moitzi, sits down, eats nicely, and says Birkat Hamazon. Wow, everybody, this is Kiddush Hashem. Look, this guy, wow. 5 minutes later comes a Talmid Chacham with looks like a Talmid Chacham with a beard, suit. Give me falafel. Takes the falafel, puts trina, amba, whatever, all the things, everything comes from all sides. No netilat yadayim, no motzi, ham. What do you think? Kiddush Hashem? Chilul Hashem. But sometimes, if somebody will do exactly as the first one did, it's not going to be Kiddush Hashem, it's going to be Chilul Hashem. For example, imagine to yourself, the chief rabbi of Israel comes to the same falafel shop, all the tables are outside, he goes, he buys a falafel, he washes his hands, tilat yadayim, moitzi, sits nicely, eats, Baruch Hashem, and he says Birkat Hamazon. But he is the chief rabbi. What are you doing in the middle of the street, in the middle of the day, eating falafel? You want to eat falafel? Take a falafel, take it home and eat there. This is not Kiddush Hashem. This is Chilul Hashem. Because you expect Gedol Hador, the chief rabbi, to sit and learn, to do things that a rabbi should do in the middle of the day and not sitting and eating falafel in the middle of the street. In other words, everything has to be with your situation and the place you are. And sometimes it's, how can I make Kiddush Hashem? So you see, even a young guy can do Kiddush Hashem. It depends who you are, where you are, and how you behave. For example, I took it on myself that on the road, if you're driving on the road, you know it's unbelievable. Great anor. This is like, you go, we see this one comes from here, that from right to left, you stay in a traffic jam and it goes on the side and it is going right and left, cutting you. And if you can go through the day, if you drive, yes, if you go through a whole day, we're not getting angry and not shouting, you are a saint. So I said, you know what, let's try it. This is Avodat HaMidot. This is, wow, this can be the best job you can do in order to work on yourself to be a better man. And believe me, you don't know how hard it is. So I got to the level that I'm convinced, don't shout, don't get angry, don't talk to the people, but inside, I've got this thing. And the idea is that we have to, it's not the outside which is important. Our Parsha says again and again and again, Ani Hashem, Ani Hashem, Ani Hashem Elokechem, Ani Hashem. I am God, I am God. Why? Because there are certain things that from the outside could look the best in the world, but inside nothing. Like all those people shouting, Beyachad, Beyachad, together, together we'll win. Do you mean it? Do you mean those together? It's not just a phrase. It has to have a meaning from inside, because otherwise it's worth nothing. And this is one of our problems, to understand and realize that we have to put our heart into it. This is what God wants. And this is a real Kiddush Hashem. We're talking about Kiddush Hashem, people thinking about, unfortunately, a lot of people in our country died on Kiddush Hashem. And terrible things that were happening. And still, soldiers are being killed, defending our nation, defending our country, defending our state. And this is Kiddush Hashem, definitely. But there is another Kiddush Hashem. Kiddush Hashem living in the right way. And just before I gave in the morning, apart from the Ten Chelkeinu, a book talk about that if three sit together and they say, sitting and eating, and they say Dvar Torah on the table, it's like they're on the altar. And the question was, why 3? Why not 4, 5, 6? What's the meaning of 3? So the meaning of 3 is very interesting. The Rabbeinu Yonah explains that 3 is already a group. And if you belong to a group, it's an unbelievable power. So 4, 5, 6, it's better. But from 3, it's a group. And a group, it means, like we say, one leaf doesn't give any shade. But when you go under a tree with a lot of leaves, you have a shade. One drop from the ocean separated is nothing. But when all the drops are together, you have the ocean. In other words, in order to do things, the better way to do it is to belong to a group. Of course, you have to belong to the right group. And we know what the right group is. The right group is going in the way of God. K'toshim tiyu. We should be holy. And holy is going in the way of God. And talking about this, we see what Am Yisrael are going through all generations. But nobody can defeat us, because if we go in the way of God, and if we unite, okay, 3 is a group, but we wish that not only 3 or 4 or 10 or 2,000 or 20,000 or 500,000, we wish that all of Am Yisrael will be together. We are counting now the Omer. Counting the Omer, the idea is, from one side, you're counting as an individual, and otherwise, you're not Yoitze. You cannot have your friend count the Omer for you. Doesn't get it. You have to count by yourself. But while you build yourself, and we talked about it, why did the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died on Sfirat HaOmer? And what is so important about this? If we will start mourning on each one of the Talmidei Chachamim that died through the generations, we can mourn the whole year. And let's not forget, the mourning on Talmidei Rabbi Akiva is only a light mourning, because at the end of the day, we're counting for a great thing, to receive the Torah. This is wow. But Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi, he says, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ze klal gadol b'Torah." He says, "V'ahavta l'reacha," to love your fellow man, is like the greatest thing. It's the basic of everything, like his rabbi says, Rabbi Hillel. "Ma shetzanui alecha al taseh alechaverecha." What you hate that people are doing to you, don't do it to your friend. And this is the basic of "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha." And he says, this is the whole Torah. And all the other things are explanations. It's unbelievable to understand it, because the love, this is what it is. Like we say Kiddushim. What is Kiddushim? How do we call marriage in the Jewish tradition? Kiddushim, holiness. What is holiness? God is one and the only one up there, and we are his nation, one and only one in this earth. He chose us from out. Like it's a marriage. He sanctified us, and he made us holy to belong to him and only to him, and we're not allowed to get involved in all the other nations, not to mingle with them, not to listen to their, let's say, those attitude of running after the desires and lust and making me the most important thing, while the most important thing is us all, the klal, the whole. And this is exactly the idea. The Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, their rabbi also says, Et Hashem Elokecha tira. Et is always telling us another thing to add on it. And there was a rabbi that learned learning all the et, what they are meaning, and he got to Et Hashem Elokecha tira. He says, oh, I cannot put anything near God. But says Rabbi Akiva, Lerabot Talmidei Chachamim. A Talmid Chacham, you have to honor him, you have to respect him as you respect God. You have to fear him as you should fear God. Et Hashem Elokecha tira. Now, who can get to this level? But the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, they had to get to this level. They couldn't make it. So they died on Sfirat HaOmer, in a plague. But we have to understand, we're not talking about here simple people. We're very high, and I'm sure that they are in very high places up there. But the lesson is for us. This is why we have to remember, while we're counting the Omer and building ourselves, that we are not alone. We are part of Am Yisrael. So we have to build ourselves with our own potential, because each one of us is a part of a puzzle. And as you know, a puzzle, you have to put in the right way. And if it's not in the right way, the puzzle cannot be whole. So each one of us has a part in this great thing that is called Am Yisrael. And we have to fulfill this part. So we are getting ready now to build ourselves. But don't forget, when you build yourself, that you are not alone, that you are not separated. You are part of a group. You are part of a great group. This is called Am Yisrael. And you are doing all of this for Am Yisrael, not for yourself. This is the basic. And God promises us, when we say in the brachot of the Haftarah, Samchenu Hashem Elokeinu, and the end we say, Ki b'shem kodshecha nishbata lo, you swore to David HaMelech, shelo yichbe nero le'olam va'ed, that his candle will never, never stop, will never turn off. It will always light. And now, do you know what, when you take a candle, for example, Yom Tov, your light went out, you've got no candle, and you go to the neighbors to take light from them. And you have to do it when you go out of your house and go to the next house. Now, if it's a sunny day and there is no wind, maybe you manage to do it. But imagine to yourself, you have a storm and it's raining. Is there any possibility that you will get with a candle by itself? When you light it, is it possible to get home back? Impossible. But Am Yisrael is a candle. One candle surrounded by enemies and storms. And God promised to David HaMelech, Lo yichbe, never ever will the light of Am Yisrael turn off. It will always light. This is the light. This is the power of Am Yisrael. You can see it through generation. Who didn't try to turn off our light? Who didn't try to destroy Am Yisrael? Did anybody have success? No. And nobody will. But we have a job, which is written in our parsha. Shemen zayit zach katit lamaor la'alot ner tamid. We have to bring the pure oil in order to light this candle that would light forever. What is this pure oil? This pure oil is the basic of everything. To build ourselves as a part of a group with love, and put this love from the inside outside, and not something that looks only from the outside like love, but inside there is nothing. Remind you all, again, Yom Haatzmaut today is our country, our state is not 67 years old, or 76 years old, or 80 years, or 90, or 100. Our country belongs to Am Yisrael from generation of generation before more than 3,000 years. Don't forget it. It's now that we are celebrating the starting of the Geulah, the starting of Am Yisrael coming back to his land, to the promised land, and building it. And Baruch Hashem, there is a lot to say. We see what's around us. Remember the candle. As long as the light is the light of the Torah, nobody can turn it off. Even those that try from inside to turn it off, they will not manage. Because if you go in the right way, in the way of the Torah, this candle will go on and lighting. It's going to be forever. And this is our power. This is the power of Am Yisrael. The power of building ourselves with the Torah as a part of the Klal, not alone. And while we do this, remember that we are here for generations on generations, and we will stay here. We will not be influenced by all the storms and the bad wind. We will remember that the Ahavta l'recha kamocha, or biyachad, is not just a figure of speech. It's got a meaning, and the meaning has to come from inside. And if we will put ourselves, as we say, ve'adat hayom, you have to know first, because you cannot have anything done if you don't know what it's all about. Unfortunately, a lot of our people are ignorant from the point of view of tradition. They know nothing. Do you know what they learn in schools about the Torah, about the tradition? Almost nothing. And this is the reason that we have to understand it. Then when we approach them, first of all, we have to try and teach them who we are, where did we come from, and not start arguing because they don't even know what you're talking about, because they know nothing, unfortunately. So what we should do is to build ourselves and use our talents in order to influence others and be a part of others. And with this love inside of us, build the way to the Geulah b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.